Right then, we're back and we're two become three today. We've got a guest on, but we just wanted to carry on with what we kind of spoke about recently, which is being a dad, fitness, health, and then also business. We've got the perfect guest for those three things today. So
First guest.
So
I'll intro you, Rick. So first of all, Rick's a good friend of ours, performance coach. Many notable athletes who we won't name drop today. Coach many different areas for many years. One of Manchester's first ever personal trainers, which is a really good line as well. Plus speaker, charity worker, and founder of Charity Boxing Nights, which is a really well-known event here in Manchester. Raised nearly £400,000 for the Neonatal unit at St Mary's, which is definitely worth dropping. And yeah, it's good to have you on, Rick.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, nice to see you both. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So what should we start off with? We start off with business, or...
Do you know what, actually, in the intro I should have mentioned, Rick's also got a 13-year-old son, which is one of the...
Yeah, dad. Yeah.
Dad.
Yeah, so...
Most important job out of them all.
Yeah.
So, obviously that's a topic that we're going to be discussing a lot today. We're going to be getting a lot of Rick's advice, someone that's 13 years in, 12 and a half years ahead of both of us.
Yeah.
And there's plenty to speak about.
Yeah.
So where do you want to start?
A little bit at beginning. I think that's always a good place to start. Like Rick, what were it like? Firstly, when you got into business, what were your kind of journey into it? I suppose into your first business and into personal training, I suppose.
Like you said, I was early into personal training. I was one of the first kind of to do it, certainly in Manchester anyway. A company that I worked for at the time sort of said that Manchester kind of wasn't ready for personal training, and there was me and one or two others that kind of went against the grain really, and we believed that we could build a business. We were really convinced of that. We didn't really know what we were doing. There's an argument that still don't, but we didn't know what we were doing. But we went for it. What we were convinced of is that we could help people, that people wanted help, that people needed help. So we just sort of went all out at it, and we made some good money. We helped a lot of clients. We made a few mistakes along the way. Particularly, business has evolved over the years, and maybe we'll get into that when it comes to parenting, because it was parenting that actually was one of the main reasons that evolved my business model. But I was kind of very much, you might say an old school sort of coach, an old school trainer. I used to train people to the hour, used to charge by the hour, so, I could make what certainly then was pretty good money, but it was long days, early mornings, late nights, weekends, and I loved it, and still do. I love all elements of what I do, whether that's physical or mental coaching. But when I became a parent, that didn't align with being a parent, so things had to change.
I think that's what we're both finding a little bit of right now, isn't it? Certain things that we do in business is not always in line with what happens with family life and stuff like that, especially from my point of view, I suppose.
Yeah, well, every action has a reaction, doesn't it? So if part of your job role brings certain side effects, I suppose you could say, that don't fit in with being a parent, then you need to adapt the way you do things. Like early starts, late evenings, you can do that when it's just you to think about. But then when there's obviously other people and other responsibilities, you've got to adapt. So to go back to the beginning with personal training then, what kind of a setup was you in? What was you in a commercial gym? Yeah. We had a chat the other day where you mentioned one of the workplaces you used to be in. Was that the first one?
Yeah, my first job actually, I got qualified and I believed I was going to be a personal trainer within that role, and actually that wasn't the case at all. I was just sort of stood behind a reception desk and signing people in and doing gym inductions. But yeah, my first proper job was at a gym called LA Fitness back in the day, and that must have been 25 years ago now, when I started doing that. And yeah, it was a commercial gym. Personal training wasn't really done at that time, and as I say, I didn't really know what I was doing. I knew how to train people, and I had a boxing background, a background in combat sports. So back then, commercial gyms were very much sort of, rows of treadmills and rows of sort of cardio kit. And what I did have was, and we talk about this in business, you've got to have a philosophy behind your business. What I did have was a philosophy, and that was getting people off, cardio kit, which often they found boring and mundane and all that kind of stuff. And I would get them, in gloves and pads and put body belt on and teach them how to box and how to kickbox and stuff, and use it as an alternative way of getting that cardio fitness in, working the heart and lungs and learning a skill and all of those kind of things, So very quickly, and one of my big beliefs, particularly in commercial gyms, is that you're always being watched. So very quickly, when there's rows and rows of people kind of on a treadmill because they believe that they should or that they have to, and then I'm stood there, or me and the other guy, we're stood there with body belts on, doing boxing and all that kind of stuff. That caught the eye of people very, very quickly, So my business really took off, and away I went, which was great for a period of years. And as I say, it was only then when I became a parent, you're getting no sleep, but doing 6:30 a.m. starts, or finishing late and missing bedtimes and all that kind of stuff, So that became a problem, but it also became a problem financially as well. I was losing money.
One thing I've picked up on there is, and I'm sure you was aware of it, or maybe you wasn't, but I imagine at that time, early days, you were constantly justifying your position. Like, even when I started, it must be nearly 14 years ago, it was still a little bit of justifying what your actual job is. Why do I need you, apart from just to motivate me? But what you've done there is you've almost created a type of training that does actually require somebody, haven't you? And something that nobody can do without you.
Yeah, I mean, you go into a gym now, whether that's commercial or private gyms or whatever, and having a trainer, being part of a club, being part of a group, doing one-on-ones, whatever, it's very much a thing. It's very much seen. It's done. Back when myself and as I say, there was a couple of others when we were coming through. Nobody really had a trainer or a coach. So people didn't really understand it. People didn't really understand the benefits of it, and they didn't really understand what they'd get in return for their financial investment. And for me, that obviously presented a challenge, but then it also played into my hands because, as I say, going back to the combat sports, what I had was a skill that ultimately people couldn't really do on their own. And I'm a big believer, particularly with boxing and punching, and with combat sport, like any sport, there's a ton of skill behind it, but if you strip it right back and just actually hit something, it's really good fun. And I've never ever really met anyone who's done some boxing for the first time and gone, I don't like that. When it's people don't always like sparring and stuff, but when it comes to just hitting some pads, or if you put a body belt on and start hitting a body belt, most people will prefer that to a treadmill. So for me, it gave me that little USP. I was doing a job that it wasn't really a job, and and business was brilliant. But as I say, it was only then when I found out I was going to be a dad, and and life changed and the dynamic changed. That not only was being in the gym all day impossible, but then actually when I wasn't in the gym, well, I was losing money then. So it was a double-edged challenge for me.
How did you approach that one then? Was that something you realised early, or were it literally like something you'd planned for?
No, didn't. Just hit me. Just absolutely hit me, And it's really obvious now, looking back. And like many things are obvious when somebody else points them out to you. But in the midst of working long hours, trying to set a home up, trying to get a baby room sorted and all those things that parenting brings, I never really thought, well, hang on a minute, I'm going to have to work less hours here, and that's going to cost me money. as well, obviously with outgoings then going up, moving into a bigger house and all that kind of stuff. It was a challenge, and ultimately, yeah, I lost money at the start. And it was only then, after losing money, you think, oh, hang on a minute, I've got to do something different here. Because, yes, I wanted to train as many people as I could. I wanted to get my message out there. I wanted to earn as much as I could, but I had to find a way of doing that didn't involve working morning, noon and night and only getting paid when I work, and that's the key message. That was the challenge and the change I had to make.
And as somebody then, obviously dad of 13 years, we did a podcast recently that discussed our emotions and our mindset building up to the baby's coming. What do you remember about that when you found out, and the build up and how your mindset changed and things like that? What's your memories of that?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been more petrified in my life in the build up to being a dad. I've never felt as clueless when I become a dad. I just didn't have a clue. I certainly wasn't a natural to begin with, and my sister has just had a baby. Actually, she's got a 6-7 week old baby now, and they're obviously very small when they're newborn, and I was quite awkward. I'm not gonna lie. As I said, I was a bit like, oh, what do I do here, and there's no manual for parenting anyway, is there? There is all these guides out there, but I still don't know what I'm doing. I think learning every day. But certainly at the beginning, I felt really out of my depth as a parent, overwhelmed. Trying to juggle home life, work life, and yeah, it was tough. I found it difficult, and obviously, it wasn't me that had given birth to the baby. So yeah, it was a challenging time, and a few months in, I think I started to find my feet. I think I certainly started to become more accustomed to, what you need to do on a day-to-day basis to be a parent and to play that role within a unit, So, but yeah, I definitely wasn't a natural, and I really struggled to start with, if I'm honest, and I remember that clearly.
Did you have anyone to speak to, being, were there anyone, your friends, or were there a circle of people, your family, or anyone you could have that point of reference and be like, ask questions and get advice from, or anything like that?
Friends wise, no, not that I can remember. Very much in that era, the friends that I did have, who'd become parents, and that compounded it for me, because they were like, oh, particularly at the start, they were like, oh, being a dad's amazing. And I was like, it's not, I'm knackered,
We spoke about this last week.
It's not, I'm knackered, I don't know what to do. And not always, of course, but certainly my case, my scenario, when you've got a little baby and they need to feed and they're crying and all those kind of things, and I just didn't have a clue. And me couple of mates who were parents, they very much were like, for me looking at them, it appeared like they knew what they were doing, which kind of just made me even worse, But family-wise, I'm super lucky with my family. I say this in anything that I ever, whenever I'm asked, mum, we've got a big, wider family, but, ultimately it's me, my mum, my dad and my sister. So quite a small family, just 2 kids, mum and dad, but good family. I've been lucky with my family. So mum and dad were always there for, advice and help and whatnot. But yeah, certainly with my friends, most of my friends didn't have kids, and the couple that did actually made it worse,
We kind of said that as in sense that you ask your pals, like, oh, what's it like? And we were saying all they ever speak about is like, oh, wait till you do your first nappy, or oh, get ready for no sleep. But there's no, you touched on it straight away, that feeling of being a dad. People talk about it being best day and the best time of your life, and we said both same. We were like, wow, this is quite a lot, and
it's horrendous. I found it horrendous.
Overwhelming is the exact word I'd use, and it's nice to know that other people actually said that.
Yeah, and maybe we're going sideways a little bit. If you look now, certainly in terms of like men and men's mental health and all that kind of stuff, men are far more, are encouraged to be more open now. And I think, certainly in my time, I was still at the sort of tail end of, like you say, a lot of men were saying, oh, this is amazing. And the reality is it's really, really difficult. But men just didn't talk about it, It wasn't spoken about,
earn the money.
Yeah. But, I found it horrendous. I found it really, really difficult. I like my sleep anyway. So, maybe it was just that. Maybe it was just the lack of sleep. But I certainly, grew into it. And you, like anything, don't you? You adapt and you become accustomed to how life is, and you develop routines and all that. And 13 years later now, my lad Liam, he's my best mate, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much all small talk, isn't it? Everyone talks about in the build-up. I just found how shocking how much I didn't know, and I almost found it odd that these people out there, that parents, they knew so much that they didn't mention. It was almost like another world that just opens, isn't it? And you find it. I almost found it mad how people didn't just talk about it all the time or what they're going through. Everyone just decides to come out with canned statements all the time, almost, don't they? Yeah. Like, wait until they're born, and ultimately, you don't. Me personally, I didn't feel that magic moment. I felt almost relief, as we discussed in the other podcast. But a lot of people don't tell you this. It's almost like you said it in that podcast when we were talking about it. It's like your 18th birthday. You're building up to it, and then you go, actually, it wasn't even that good. Yeah. And then now you're thinking about your 21st birthday, and you think you're gonna get that feeling. But just to skip on a bit, then. So obviously, 13 years in now, and I know you'll put a lot of time and thought into this. What would you describe as your parenting style? Like, what influence are you trying to have now and as you've been through it?
I'm really clear with this role model. I want my son, just as an example, to try and lead a healthy life. In a life that's, there's an irony that we're doing this digital stuff today, and this digital's cool and it's moved life on exponentially. But I don't want my lad sat on his iPad all day, because I don't believe that that's good for him, physically or mentally. I want him to try and lead a healthy life. I want him to be happy. I want him to live a life of the right values and the right morals. So therefore, I've got to try my best to live my life with those correct values and morals, and try and be healthy and happy myself. I'm certainly not an Olympic athlete. I definitely think I am. There's no doubt about that. But so me and my boy, we go to kickboxing together. If he didn't enjoy it, and I'm very much not the kickboxing coach when he's there. We go to a brilliant club, a local club. He's over one side of the room, I'm over the other side of the room. It's something we do together, but he's very separate. I'm his dad, I'm not his kickboxing coach. But if he didn't enjoy combat sports, for example, then I wouldn't force him to do it. But I would want him to be doing something that is physically active.
So you find another way to instill those same values.
Absolutely, yeah. Because I believe in physical activity, not just for your body, but also for your mind, but for your social skills, and to meet new friends, and to broaden his horizons, and go on trips with his club, or all of those things that for me will grow him as a young man, and will show him what the good, the bad, and the ugly of what life is really like. So for me, the best way is, rather than telling him, is to show him. I believe that kids will follow what they see rather than what you say. So I try my best to be a good role model in everything that I do. I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect, but that's part one of what I believe my role is as his parent. But then the second one, I'm sorry I'm going on a bit, but the second one is to remember that while he is like my best friend and all those kind of things, I am his dad. Yeah. And that there is a little bit of discipline there. I try and, if he's behaving in a certain way that I don't like or don't agree with, I'm going to tell him, I'm not his mate. I'm his dad, and he'll learn that if he does, overstep or cross the line in certain ways, that there's going to be a consequence from that. So that's kind of what I try and do. We don't always get it right, but
It sounds simple, doesn't it, to do them kind of things. But like you said, the showing and telling, the showing, how it's not telling is a big one. And just through reading up on these kind of things, it is like if you're not keeping yourself fit and keeping yourself active and challenging yourself like you do in different ways, they're going to turn at some point and go, you don't do it.
Absolutely. And like you said, that maybe that in his health, but also in his career, in anything, in his values with other people. I want to just try and show him the right way to live your life. As I say, I don't always get it right, but I'd like him to grow up with manners. I'd like him to grow up to respect people from all walks of life. I'd like him to be open-minded. And the best way is for me to, have those traits as well. So I don't have those traits solely to show Liam. That's what I believe as a person, So, but as I said before, there's no manual to it. We get it wrong. We say things we shouldn't, or do things that are ill-timed or whatever. But you can only do your best.
What's interesting about what you were saying there is the whole show and not tell. I think that's more of a common thing that a lot of people are doing now, aren't they? Which I think, it's a very much a recent thing, because I think a lot of old school parenting was the opposite, wasn't it? Tell. And another thing I picked up on is obviously you're going to kickboxing with Liam and actually not presenting yourself as the authority in that situation. You're showing him you becoming a student. And what's interesting there is you're allowing him to have other male role models, aren't you?
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, just thinking on the spot now, if that's one of the reasons why a lot of young men have problems with authority growing up, because their father has always been the dominant male role model and don't allow them to get used to other male role models as well, which you're doing the opposite, which is really, really good. Is that something you've done consciously, or what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you might be right in terms of, it's certainly not for me to tell other people how to parent their kids, but, I think you may be right in terms of the authority thing. I know that from, my experience in all my career, for me, the parent stood on the sideline screaming and shouting at their kids, it doesn't help. I think being there to support and encourage and show them that you're taking an interest, absolutely. I think you doing it yourself also, encourages and supports your child as well, and as I say, if my lad didn't like combat sports, then that would be absolutely fine. If he wanted to do, any number of other different things, I would completely support him. It just so happens, from what he's telling me, and certainly what I see and what others around us see, that he enjoys it. But yeah, when we go to kickboxing, my role is not to be his coach. I'm his dad, and then my role is to drive us there, and at this stage, pay the money for him to do the lesson. And that is very much where my role's evolving. Like many of us, it's definitely dad's taxi and dad's bank, but when we're there, and as well, I'm there to learn, Yeah, the coaching team where we go are incredible, it's amazingly experienced, but equally it's a disciplined environment, it's tough. So I'm on my own journey with it as well, and if Liam can take inspiration from that, then amazing. But equally, there's a couple of young guys and young girls down at the club who teach, and they are phenomenal role models for Liam. And, he's very much learning from them rather than me. He knows that I'm there, but I'm over the other side of the room getting absolutely beasted as well, I can't speak at the, because I can't get my breath. It's bloody tough. But very much so. There are role models down there for him. But equally, if he oversteps the line down at the club, or he underperforms, or his effort levels aren't there, these guys will tell him. And if he does face discipline down there from them, the last person he should look to is me, because you know they're in charge and it's their rules, and I will literally just leave him to it. You know, they're the boss.
It's a good little lesson, that, isn't it, sports? Because you feel so protective of your kids. I know I do already.
Yeah.
You know, even when you pass them to be held by someone else, you're almost looking, are they holding them right? Are they doing it right? But giving that responsibility to someone else over your kids is a big thing. It's something you have to do continuously. Like we spoke about nursery, we spoke about schools and stuff like that on episodes, and it's like they're milestones and steps, and that's where you've kind of just got to trust other people with your kids and hope that you've put them in a safe environment, and you know enough about your child as he's growing up. Obviously,
that's the key word. Yeah. You've got to trust, and you do your research, and you know, of course, you want what's best for your kids, but equally, like anything in life, we don't know everything. You know, if we go into our career or into a meeting or into a potential, you know, business opportunity or anything, thinking we know it all, then we're already lost, aren't we? You know, and whether it's kickboxing or nursery or you know, teaching English and maths or whatever to your children, there are people around there that can support the growth of your kids way more than you can, you know. So of course you do your research. I mean, we tried a few different places, and going back to the kickboxing before we settled on where we're at, and I'm absolutely convinced this is the right place for us, and I completely trust the coaching team with, you know, Liam's growth and development. They'll keep him safe, I'm certain of it, physically, mentally, emotionally safe, but then equally, physically, mentally and emotionally, they'll push him as well, because that's what life's about, you know. Life is not, in my opinion, it's not about winning all the time. Because sometimes in life we don't win. Life's about sometimes, you know, the metaphor of getting knocked down and having to get back up again, you know.
Yeah.
So
you get many of those lessons, don't you? And the word that you've not said that I thought was going to come is obviously he's building a lot of resilience.
Yeah.
Which to lead into your coaching program now, I know that's a big part of it. So you've already touched on a lot of your values on the podcast so far, but do you want to tell us a little bit about the MAPS program? Because I know you do a lot of mindset, resilience, health coaching with those, and a lot of the values of that is what this podcast is about. So what kind of values are you instilling people on the program there?
So, you know, I've been doing this, I've been coaching for 20 odd years, like we've talked about, and I worked for a period of time coaching members of the public day to day. A lot of academic study in terms of doing my master's degree and all that kind of stuff. And then I worked in pro sport, as you know, you guys both know, I worked in pro sport for a number of years and loved it. Had some ups and downs, highs and lows, but kind of worked at the highest levels with that, really. But then that also took me down the path of working a little bit with the military and a little bit with the police force, and then with a lot of corporate people as well. And what I realised with sport is that science is amazing, and learning about, you know, training and nutrition and all those things, it helps with being the best that you can be. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, we're all humans, we're all people, and you know, the athletes I was working with had a number of challenges. Yes, physically, yes, in terms of competition, opponents, all that, but they also had mental challenges as well in terms of their mindset and so forth. And then, you know, ultimately, you know, in terms of, again, how life changes and life evolves and life moves in phases, I decided that, you know, the lessons that I'd taken from pro sport, you know, obviously I taught the athletes and the clients a number of things, but they taught me as much, if not more. I believe those things, those lessons can transfer to every single one of us, and that whilst our day-to-day challenges might be different, they're ultimately the same, and that's why I created the MAPS coaching program, and that was to utilise some of the tools that pro athletes use, and actually, why can we not use those tools as well in terms of, and adapt them in terms of our life, and I believe we can, and so that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to because we're all athletes in our own right. We're all champions in our own right, and we all face challenges every day. So that's the essence of it.
We all need a body that performs, don't we, which you touch on. We all need resilience for day-to-day life. We all need a strong mindset. We touched on this about the prep that we did on ourselves before becoming a dad. I think a lot of people focus on how they're going to parent the child and how they're going to set the crib up and how they're going to cope with all the demands of being a new parent without thinking about how to actually work on themselves to give a better output. How can you... I mean, we talked about training really hard in the build-up to becoming a dad, so we had better energy levels, all these little things, more strength, more...
be able to cope with lack of sleep. Stuff like that. Perform
with less, I suppose, less energy overall. You need endurance at the end of the day to be a parent. The better you're treating yourself, the more you're going to actually produce good quality output.
And that was where I absolutely did what I absolutely did not do in the build-up to parenting. You know, once I became a parent, my training went out the window, my nutrition went out the window, and I gained weight. You know, because again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, I was time starved in my business, so I sacrificed training for more work, and I got then caught in a bit of a slippery slope, really, of weight gain, not being as healthy, not being as physically or mentally fast or as strong as I could or should be, and then that then loops around to, you know, as Liam started to get a bit older, thinking, hang on a minute, I want to be a role model for him, you know.
We spoke about this before a lot, haven't we? It's a big topic with dads especially, that because I think we were talking about the generic statements we get, and a lot of people, it revolves around what you're going to have to give up. It's all well and good you doing well at business, but try doing it as a parent, or it's all well and good you doing a triathlon or competing in martial arts or whatever. I can't do that because A, B and C. And I think now people are starting to realise that actually you can do all the things that you want to do even better if you actually look after the main priority, which ultimately needs to be yourself to actually be the best parent and person you can be.
Yeah, I think if you sort out your mindset and your physical being as well, you actually gain time.
Yeah, you do.
You're sharper. You get a better routine. You actually find more time where you think, it takes a lot of effort to train. It takes a lot of effort to focus on my mindset. But actually, once you do it and it becomes part of what you do, you're saving time.
I think when you become a parent, perhaps even before parenting, but certainly when you become a parent, you there's sort of this thing, you know, are you encouraged or not? I don't know, but there's this thing of putting yourself last, isn't there? You know, whereas actually, in order, like you say, to be a good parent and a good partner and to be a good family member, whatever, you know, good is, or for things to carry on, for you to give to others, you've got to be in a position of strength yourself. You know, you can't, what's that saying? You can't drink from an empty cup, can you? You know.
We said that on one of others.
Yeah, but it's so true because people will, and we do it in lots of aspects. Like one of the reasons people don't go to the gym with or without kids because they've not got the time. But obviously, if you find the time, you'll suddenly find energy elsewhere. And it's that phrase as well. I'm going to butcher it now, but if you ask me to chop down a tree, I'll spend the first few hours sharpening the axe or whatever. And it's the same with everything else, isn't it? And I think a lot of people, and obviously we're not experts, we're just giving our take on it, but people will lose the temper with the kids, and it always comes down to really about yourself, doesn't it? You're not happy with what you're doing, so you're being short with other people. For example, if I was this kind of person that had not been able to train for 2 weeks, I know for a fact that would show on my day out with the family. I'd be a bit short, or I'd be a bit less jolly. Whereas if I get my session and do what I do, which is my jiu-jitsu, and that's what I need to feel good at, many other things as well, obviously how we fuel our bodies and stuff, but I feel like I can be the person I want to be if I'm...
Absolutely. And it's not selfish.
No.
You're actually, you know, you're actually enriching your family life and enriching your parenting by giving that little bit of time to yourself. Yeah, 100%.
And upskilling as well. Self-development, gaining knowledge. I mean, we can't go around trying to pass on knowledge if we're not even being a student ourselves, as you were saying before. So I think this leads nicely into, obviously, one of your other big projects, which is, we touched on at the beginning, Charity Boxing Nights, which is a big event around Manchester. For anybody that doesn't know about it, how would you describe what's been going on in the last 8 years?
Yeah, so we're 8 years in now. It's an annual event. I think It's in my opinion, you know, and I don't mind saying this, I think it's one of the best charity events, arguably of its kind in the country, and we're super proud of it. You know, we had a family tragedy 8 years ago that sadly my sister, there was complications when she gave birth, and unfortunately, yeah, it led to my sister and my niece being taken to newborn intensive care, or NICU as it's called, newborn intensive care unit at Royal Manchester Children's Hospital. And yeah, you know, after 12 days, we didn't get the outcome with the baby that you know we wanted. Unfortunately, the baby passed away. It was thankfully my sister, who was very, very ill. She made a full recovery, thankfully. And it was a really, really difficult time, you know, of course for my sister and her husband and their, you know, their kids, but for all of us, you know, as a family, it was horrendous. And you know, I spent a period of time on the newborn intensive care unit, not as much as my sister and her husband, but I just we as a family saw, you know, not only the amazing work that's being done minute by minute by the staff there, but ultimately there is very, very tiny babies fighting, you know, and really fighting for their lives, you know. Parents of these children in a grave, dire situation, you know, a terrible situation, and as a family we'd gone through that as well, you know. So I just I wanted to, out of what was a horrendous time for the family, I wanted to try and find something positive for us as a family. Try and find something in legacy of my little niece Sophia, but then also do something that would give back and support the work that was being done and the families that were there, you know. So I've been in and around boxing as part of my career. You know, I've worked with some high-profile boxers for a number of years and been around boxing events. So, and I'd had a bit of a go at this once previously. I'd raised some money for another charity by doing a small boxing event, and after I'd done it and we raised some money, and I swore to myself I was never doing it again, never ever. I remember being stood at the bar having a pint, and somebody said, "That was great. Did you enjoy it?" And I said, "Absolutely not. I'm never doing it again." But you know, I don't know. I just thought I'll do this event. I'm gonna bring the event. You know, I'm gonna get the event out there again. We're gonna go for it, big style. And I think we've done that, you know. So we created charity boxing nights, and we fundraised for newborn intensive care, and we've raised about £400,000 so far, you know. So,
yeah. And the night itself has been there, I think, every year. It's just an unbelievable night, isn't it? Like, the show is a pro boxing level. In fact, no, it's not. It's a high-end pro boxing level show, because the entrances and the production is of one you'd see on TV, really. You wouldn't see anything that standard that wouldn't be on TV most of the time. So the people that get forward and fight for the charity get one of the best nights of their life, don't they? Plus the camp, and obviously everyone always feels amazing after it because the lessons they get and the night and the buzz and all that kind of thing. It's just an unbelievable show.
Oh, yeah, our event is for people who've never fought before. It's for absolute beginners, and we do our best to really, really stringently sort of vet that. And again, it's going back to those philosophies that we talked about earlier. A lot of the people, the men and women that step forward and participate as fighters, a lot of those people are parents. Quite a few of those parents have had children on the newborn intensive care unit. So there's a real, you know, connection there in terms of them wanting to do their bit as well. You know, to raise some money and yeah, and you know, for us ultimately, we again, there's a training camp which is tough, but we're trying to physically and mentally take them on an experience, take them on a journey of self-development, a journey of self-discovery that is about boxing, but it's more than that for them. And you know, we've had many of those people sort of say it's one of the best things they've ever done, and they've gone on to, you know, raise a load of money, but also find something within themselves that they perhaps didn't even know they were capable of, you know. So yeah, we're super proud of the event. We're super proud of Charity Boxing Nights. Obviously, you know, yourself, Josh, you've been, like you say, every year, and you know, and I've volunteered, might I add as well. You know, we rely on a ton of help, and we've got good people around us. I very much sort of, I think, you know, kind of front, is that the word? Front the event.
Dana White.
Yeah. They're very much a Dana White. Although seeing the pictures of his physique recently, I think, you know, I think I need to push a few more weights myself. But you know, we've got a great team. I tend to get a lot of the plaudits for it, but we've got a great team. It's a special night. I think it's a night that even if you don't like boxing, you would love the event. It's a show. Yeah, and I'm super proud of it. That said, you know, what we did last time is now gone, and we're moving on to year 9 next time, and then obviously the big one, year 10, the year after.
That's amazing.
Can I take the final question?
Yeah.
So, I've just been thinking. So, let's say somebody's just found out, a dad, more specifically, or a mum, but obviously we can only relate to more being a dad, I suppose, has just found out they're going to have a baby. Maybe the baby's 3 months away, and they're thinking, what can I do to get in the right headspace to be a dad? I know I'm putting you on the spot now. What kind of tips would you give to somebody that's going to be a dad from your wisdom the last 13 years? But not only as a dad, but obviously knowing what you know about health and fitness and managing businesses. Let's imagine they're very busy, they've got a business, they've got a lot on the plate. What kind of tips and advice would you give to somebody?
I think it's things we've already discussed. I think make time for yourself. Still, that's really important. You know, make time to not just like you don't have to be in the gym, but to go for a walk. You know, just make some time for yourself to ensure that you're okay, that your well-being's okay. Of course, you know, you see a different side to women when they give birth. I mean, they're just incredible, you know, and of course the you know, the mum and the baby and whatnot, they are. That's where your focus is, but you've got to make sure there's a little bit of time for your own health and well-being as well. So I think we covered that. I think it's that adage that is out there now, but I will also second it, to talk to people, and if you're struggling, to talk to people, that if you are feeling a bit overwhelmed or a bit out of your depth or anything, that actually most men, I can't speak for women, but I'm sure many of them are as well. I certainly was, and still, there's still times, you know, and I'm sorry, but your worries change as parenting evolves, you know, and I'm worried now as a father of a teenage boy with the challenges that brings, you know. So I think yourself, Kieran, you mentioned you did have people to talk to. To go back to that, I probably did, but probably didn't
Want to.
Yeah,
that's kind of where I think.
You know, and didn't seek it out.
You kind of don't want to come across as not knowing what you're doing.
Yeah, everyone
once you accept it, you think, you know what,
yeah.
Actually everyone's in this same position. You don't have to know what you're doing.
Yeah. Basically, the generic answer is I'm fine. Yeah,
I'm fine. I'm fine. Things are great.
And a lot of time people don't even ask you. It's like, how's Lucy, or how's your wife, and how's kids, and you know, it's very rare. Like I make a point now with my mates who've got kids. How are you? You know, what are you up to? How's your, you know, because no one really asks you, do they? It's just like, are the kids all right? You know, is the wife all right?
So, so they'd be the main two things. And you know, parenting, as I say, the first couple of months it was tough, but then I got used to it. You know, and you enjoy every minute. You know, and you don't remember what life was like before parenting.
And what about managing work then? Because obviously we had a chat recently, didn't we, about everything you take in now work-wise. You have to think about how that affects the big picture. Yeah. So what about that side of things? What advice would you have there?
You get, you know, remembering that you're not perfect. You get parent guilt still sometimes, but then equally you've got to pay the bills as well, and we've got to put play our part in putting food on the table. And there is, you've just said it, there is that fine balance. I very much want to be present as much as I can in terms of, not just key moments, obviously, certain parents' evenings or end of year assemblies and whatnot like that. But day to day as well, I want to be as present as often, or there as often as I can. But that said, equally, I've got to earn money, and Liam's night trainers don't come cheap. Although that said, now he's at an age where he's now working, doing bits of jobs for me to not his trainers, but there's certain fashion items that he wants, and he says, and we'll maybe leave it at this. He definitely says I've got no style, but he wants certain things, so he's got to earn his own little bit of money as well. But I think to kind of maybe to wrap it up is that none of us are perfect with parenting. We're doing our best, and we're figuring out as we go, and that's still where I'm at very much to this day.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Yeah, really good.
Thanks for your time, mate.
Yeah, cheers, Rick.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Thank you very much. Cheers, guys.